since this is just an overview,
Yeah.
we have in the same period been able to deal a lethal blow to very draconian legislations. I mean, the death penalty. At the end of the Civil War, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission had recommended the abolition of the death penalty. The Civil War ended, just to remind viewers and listeners, in 2002. Governments have come and gone, and it's been all motion, no movement. It took a very audacious and courageous President Bill to remove that anachronistic law from our law books, right? So the death penalty has gone. Again, on top of that, 55 years criminal libel law, right? I mean, President Bill easily goes down in history as the most criticized, as the most unjustifiably attacked presidential candidate, right? In all two instances he has contested, by particularly on professional sections of the media. But be that as it may, he noted and he still believes the media has an important role to play in national development. He went ahead and led the repeal efforts. Today, Sierra Leone has joined the civilized world, right? For that reason, we have made substantial improvements in our global media freedom ranking. Again, on governance issues, we had a constitutional review committee. An 80-plus man-member committee was set up by the previous administration, that crisscrosses country. Billions and billions of taxpayers' money was spent on that. Majority of the people's recommendations were rejected by the erstwhile government in their white paper. That has been revisited, and very, very, very frame-breaking reforms have been accepted by this government, including the 30% quota for women, including the dual citizenship, amongst other frame-breaking reforms, right? So, you're also talking about national cohesion. I had my colleagues before now talk about it. In his manifesto, the New Direction Manifesto, His Excellency had noted that Sierra Leone was a deeply divided country, right? And he always believes that there are a lot more things that unite us than those that threaten to put us asunder. So as a result, he was determined to stitch his country together. We organized a national conference to talk about peace, unity, and cohesion. Well, the opposition, who really has no interest in national cohesion, boycotted it. But we are happy that many Sierra Leoneans and many of the other smaller opposition parties participated. So we have set up a national cohesion committee, right, that is now working with people from all shades of opinion to ensure that they are able to work with government advice to ensure that what could be stitched in the board does not degenerate into.
All right, let's start the conversation proper. Let's start with the economy, and I'll start off that with you. You as a party promised on the platform of effective and efficient management of the state and its resources.
Yep.
And you, for example, you're on record for saying you met the economy at a very critical stage that it took the expertise of President Bio and people like yourselves in governance to have resuscitated Sierra Leone's economy. Many people are now saying where we are in terms of the economy, there are external factors like Dr. Sani mentioned, but within the confines of Sierra Leone, many people are saying it appears the government does not know what it's doing with regards to Sierra Leone's economy, because many people feel things are getting worse. So do you still go with that efficient and effective management of the state and its resources platform you campaigned on?
Definitely, we do. It's good that we did. If we did not have stamina in that conviction and we did not live by that mantra, this country would have gone to the dogs by now. We inherited, an extremely difficult financial situation, I told you, where salaries were only being paid by recourse to bank lending. At the same time, when most of the major mining companies had pulled out, leaving behind huge overheads for government to address, we are talking about a time when the country was also yearning for change. Commodity prices around the world, particularly in terms of the key exports we have, rutile and iron ore had fallen, right? So we inherited a country in austerity, right? So no doubt about that. But for the fiscal discipline, for the prudence, so one of the things government first did as part of the fiscal consolidation policies was to introduce the Treasury single account, right? For the Treasury single account, government was able to harness much needed resources in addition to reforms in taxation and at the NRA. So we're able to mobilize domestic revenue to be able to do the kind of things we do. Already we started a free quality education program without any donor support. Exclusively, it was a government initiative. And it's many still behold how this could happen in the very first year. In April, President Bio was sworn in. In September, you were rolling out a totally paid for by government, a free quality education program, right? So that is that. Again, you have a situation where, I mean, we started off all of those things, just to read you the figures.
Go ahead.
Right? The GDP in government implemented several expenditure control and management measures, which resulted in a decline in expenditures from 24% of GDP in 2017 to 21.4% of GDP in 2018 and 2019. But for COVID, when COVID struck, these figures had to, domestic revenue mobilization plummeted to an all-time low, I mean, because of lockdowns and supply chain disruptions around the world. But we also had a situation where government now had to spend more resources, to cushion the impact of COVID, particularly on the hardest hit members of society, right? Getting drugs, supplies, and all of those things. I mean, it was during the same period that government was giving direct cash transfers to market women, to physically challenged persons, and ensuring sustainable drug supply and all of that, right? So, we have continued to be fiscally disciplined. It's sad that the opposition and other members of society have sought to criminalize legitimate government entitlements that people like me get when I travel, whether it's in the provinces or overseas. I've seen people criminalizing per diem, which everybody here on the panel has had. Yeah, Dr. Richard Akonte was a minister before me, right? He's had per diems, but now I see that criminalized by faceless members of social media public, right? So yes, the economy has had challenges, but we have done very well. There was promise that we'll increase revenue GDP ratio, but that's something we can come to later.
Yeah.
But by and large, but for the fiscal prudence of this government, but for aggressive domestic revenue mobilization with a human face, right? This country would have gone down to dogs. I know countries, for example, people have spoken about many things, but we have tried even in the midst of this, right?
All right. Before I bring in Lena, let me just quickly hear from Dr. Conte.
Yes.
The minister has submitted to us here that they've done extremely well, taking into consideration where they met the economy. And looking at the gains he has highlighted that they've made over time, and the improvements they've made in sectors with regard to salary increases and all other things. And the shock that COVID brought in, disrupted every other economic activity, and at the end of the day, there was so much pressure on Sierra Leone's economy, but they were still able to push, the developmental strides they were pushing. So in essence, they've efficiently they've efficiently managed the economy as they promised.
Thank you very much. The problem with this government is that they think they can run an economy on propaganda. Let me start by correcting a few untruths that he has mentioned. The single treasury account, they inherited it from the APC government. It was our idea, and they inherited it. It's not their idea. And to say that they are not living on ways and means to pay salaries is also not true. In fact, what is true is that it is projected that in 2023, the ways and means will exceed 213 trillion. Because they have to rely on bank lending to finance the wage bill. And the reason why that is so is because they have a bloated wage bill. When we left office in 2018, the monthly wage bill was only about 165 billion. This has now, by 2020, it had increased to 240 billion. And it is now projected that in 2023, the wage bill will go up to 3.75 trillion per annum. No, that is even the figure for 2021, and in 2023, it's expected to go up to 3.9 trillion per annum. What that has cost to this country is that it has just increased the debt burden of this country. When we left office in 2018, when they do the assessment of our debt burden, debt ratio to GDP, it was rated as moderate risk. We are at moderate risk. Now, we are at high risk. And what has happened is that there's even now a debt cancellation campaign that is championed by some civil society groups. In 2020, the debt for this country was about 30.71 trillion. What is bad about this is the fact that that debt is more than the GDP for 3 years. If you put the GDP for 2019, 2020, and 2021 together, it is lower than the debt that they have. So that's why and under normal circumstances, the debt for any country should not exceed 65% of GDP. But what we have is a situation where their debt exceeds the annual budget for 3 years.
Is the debt justifiable, taking into consideration the current
Well, that is the question. That is precisely the question. It is not justifiable because we're not seeing it. We are not seeing any roads being constructed. We're not seeing any water supply being provided. We're not seeing any light being provided. And even the free quality education that they say it is theirs, that they pride in, we have not seen it. There is nothing quality. They've not built a single school building, and the costs for our parents is increasing by the day. He spoke about people criminalizing per diem. Nobody is criminalizing per diem. What is the problem, and what is being highlighted is the fact that for the first time in the history of this country, we are now talking about double dipping. Even in the area of per diems, even in the area of payments for hotels and other things, I don't want to go into specifics, but we have been informed from credible sources like the audit report of issues about double dipping, and that is wrong. And that double dipping also includes double dipping in terms of per diems. And so it is not, per diems are provided for by law. So if you are entitled to it, you get it. But if you double dip, if you collect per diem without traveling, or you collect per diem twice without traveling, then it is criminal. And that is the issue. And further than that, he is talking about some of the things they've done. They've abolished the death penalty, they've repealed the criminal libel laws, and then they replaced it with an even more draconian cybercrime bill, which sort of limits even our ability to communicate freely.
I would want to hold the governance angle. We'll come to look at all of those things. Yeah, it is very, we'll have to look at all of those things. But just on the economy, still, let me bring in Lena. You've listened to the submissions from both the minister and Dr. Conte. And the minister cited the free quality education, for example, which many have submitted. It's the single most ambitious program ever since independence. And that's now the government has given 22% of its resources to just that sector. But many are now looking at, with all of these things we're doing, the economy is getting better, there are monetary and fiscal policies coming up, improving the economy, but for many, they are not getting a feel of the improvements. That is not being reflected. So Where would you put the economy, the gains the minister has mentioned as against the things that Dr. Conte is saying? They are not there, they're not seeing, they're not feeling them.
The ping pong has actually started. You know, when we look at Sierra Leone's economy as it is now, you're quite right in saying people don't feel it. It's not being felt because what we feel every day is that the dollar is increasing. Even though you have increase in wages, but those increases in wages is offset by inflation. Okay, you go to the supermarket, 500,000 leones now is nothing. Okay, if you think you buy fuel now, 20 liters of fuel is 300,000, and then you buy for your car if you have a car. You buy, you know, so it's difficult. There have been some gains, obviously, as the minister says, but those gains are not felt because the economy is not performing as it should be. Okay, we live in a country where if we put all our resources together, we would not be in this kind of situation. Okay, we have all these minings and so forth, but because we have failed to harness our resources do not work for us. And when those resources do not work for us, this is the problem that we have. Government gets its revenue by taxing us. It's the majority of its revenue is for
taxation, right?
Exactly. And I know it has put some emphasis on tourism as well. Well, we don't have the infrastructure. You know, it's like a cycle. We don't have the infrastructure to attract those to come in. You know, so there has to come to a point where these two political parties has to basically, it is not about what we do and when we inherited this and that. We have to fundamentally look at our problems in Sierra Leone. How are we able to get people back to work? How are we able to attract investment? How are we able to not only to attract outside investment, but to invest in ourselves? Factories. Okay, we have to become industrialized and quickly. We have graduates who are in the midst of living college. They don't have work to do. I have some of them calling me 3 years ago, 3 years now, since graduation, no jobs. Okay, so this kind of tit for tat, it's not fruitful. It doesn't actually bode well. We have to fundamentally, if Sierra Leone, when you talk about the economy, we have to start investing in ourselves, in our resources. How long will government be getting its resources from taxation? You know, and then when you tax, because for somebody like me, we pay tax, we don't see what we are paying for. I have now 2 nights no electricity, and you wonder, because the amount of tax we actually pay, what our taxes go in for. But so fundamentally, people don't feel it. You might talk about fiscal policy, fiscal prudency. Those are words on paper. When we get down to the brass tacks of it, Sierra Leoneans want to feel that when they say, I have money in the pocket, if there's an election next year, there is an election next year, then we also if somebody wants to say, well, what have I gained from 2018 to now? How much money do I have in my pockets? How good are my schools? How can I afford to send my kids to school and so forth? So we have to really bring the subject down to what people are feeling. And right now, people are it's a lot.
All right. Dr. Sandy, let me hear you on the, for example, the economy was bad, according to the government when they took over. And because of that, there was this need for its diversification. Of course, the government said it was going to diversify its economy. We're just not going to pay attention to the extractives because over time it has failed us. Let's put some attention on agriculture, tourism, and the blue economy. I mean, these were areas that government, looked at and told us that, they were viable areas for Sierra Leone. If we're going to achieve the issue of economic diversification. But with the things happening now, we get to from what we collect as taxes and the few helps that come in, we have to always plug in things and get things running. So how do we, at this point, look at the economy, and what would you say are the variables leading to whether we're having a bust or we're having a boom?
It's like I did say, for me, I move again to as cluster 2 of the national midterm national development plan. Cluster 2 say diversifying the economy and promoting growth.
Right.
And there are 7 pillars to that. So when I discuss this, I measure how much has His Excellency President Marabio oversight the implementation of those 7 pillars. And what are the impact? I'm not looking at process. The impact is what Dr. Richard and Linnea and everyone is talking about. Impact indicator. And I'm very happy. The midterm development plan say, what makes it different from other plans, whether it's theory of change, whether it's PRSP1, PRSP2, which we are all part of, or Agenda for Prosperity, is that they included in cluster number 8 the tracking and implementation, monitor and evaluation framework. So the indicators are there for each of those pillars under the economy. For example, let me just briefly highlight some of the pillars under cluster 2. One, it's improving the productivity and commercialization of the agriculture sector.
Yeah.
Number 2, improving productivity and sustainable natural fisheries, the fisheries and marine.
Right.
And then 3, revitalize the tourist sector. 4, manufacturing and services, what our dear sister was talking about in terms of job. Then 5, improving the management of oil and gas. And then 6, improving the management of our mineral resources, and as well as the last one, promoting inclusive rural economy. Let me start by promoting inclusive rural economy. By the way, when my minister was talking, I came back 2 weeks ago. I'm doing 500 to 1,000 acres of agriculture, rice and vegetables in my village in Tayama. That's where I am. You remember somebody called me and I said, no, I'm in the farm.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say is, I often, as a traditional economics, I often tell people, we should forget about monetary policies, M1, M2, the demand and supply of money. Money is not the answer. It's a medium of exchange, as we all know, in terms of factors of production. I remember very well in those days, I would leave Fobe College and go to my village in Kerema. I'll go deep into the village, stay with my grandmother. I'll have 10 loans. In the village, I realized that 10 loans I cannot spend it somewhere and call my citizens fellow. You will have, because I had banana there, I had oranges there, I had even the natural fresh fish. You get it in the village. So in terms of demand and supply, I have everything in the village, which you drink palm wine. So it's about productivity. That's the point I'm trying to say. When you read at the midterm development plan, part of the challenge highlighted clearly, which was a consensus bill by those who drafted that, is that we are not producing. We are purely 60 to 70% our GDP goes through consumption, private consumption, meaning we are not producing. How many of us are producing 8 hours per day as Sierra Leone? This is a honest conversation we need to have, even if it's a national dialogue. We are not processing, and that's why I blame government, because we don't stimulate national dialogue of how do we enhance economic governance issues. And in the
just
case I've
quickly,
said
would you say that, because let's go back, for example, President Bio was in Parliament telling Sierra Leoneans that he understood at the time that we should go back to the farms, we should go back to our villages, and he said all of these guys he appointed should go to the farm, should have a farm. And so he understood the reality then that was what was needed. So would you say the government is not actually in line, or is it about implementation?
I think it is about, there's a gap between the framework, the National Development Plan, and implementation. As always, there's a big, huge gap. And there's what I have understood. I talk now like a politician. There is lack of prioritization and sequencing of what we do. You know, if you have, the law of scarcity say, if you have small money in terms of our domestic revenue mobilization, we have the small money. What do you prioritize to stimulate economic growth and development? That's the point I'm making, because this cluster, for example, when the World Bank or international community describes Sierra Leone as a fragile state after conflict, fragility means it's not only about institutions. Can we feed ourselves? We cannot. Import substitution is what we are running. From after the war, we are dependency syndrome. Our national budgetary process depends so much on direct budgetary support for the international partners. So the little we get, how much have we stimulated access to finances? Like, for example, when I go to the bank now, apart from my reserves, I have my own funding. It's difficult for me to access capital to go to the farm. Second, the mechanized farming I'm doing, the tractors which government have brought, when you go to Moaba Junction or any other place in Bo to hire them, the cost of fear, the cost of that tractor going to is too high for our farmers. So that's what I'm saying is, in terms of stimulating the rural economy, my association is called JSN Associate Family Farming Initiative. It's a UN concept from 2019 to 2028. That because of communal land tenure system, which 1, 2, 3, I don't know about my sister, but all of us here, the major thing when I sit in Kenya, I am in Sudan or anywhere, I know the asset in the Parliamentary Confederacy in 1896 my parents worked for was the communal land tenure system. Okay. I can easily go there, access to Chief Bapi, thank you, my paramount chief. He gave me asset for 25 years. I leased that from Nairobi, and I'm doing that to increase productivity. If I can, when there was COVID, behind my house, in Wilkinson Road, in Spolu, I don't buy, as I sit here, I don't drink tea leaf, I don't drink coffee. I only drink lemongrass behind my house. Anybody who has gone there, me and my kids, we plant, we water that in the morning. Backyard garden and vegetable garden, I do that. So what I'm trying to say, this cluster, here in Sierra Leone, we tend to be focusing more on macroeconomic policy issues rather than micro-analysis that consumer, how do you mention the cost of living and working condition, which she mentioned there, we all know, palm don't go up, pepper don't go up. What surprised me when I started knowing the impact of this measure in the CPI, the consumer price indices, according to staple price item, the commodities there. One, Najeli water. I started going by Connaught. It things like, I don't know how do we call it in economics again, whether a collusion or the cartel, you know what they do in this oil. The jelly people also have their own cartel. In this city, when you go, I start asking, by 2018, the price of jelly water was 1,500. Yes. It is 5,000 now.
So it means it's been a while.
Again, the moral philosophy of Sierra Leoneans, we have to be honest here.
Yeah.
Are we real to ourselves? Do we have a national interest? Do we feel for our people?
All right.
I asked the people on jelly the other day by Aberdeen Road Junction. Who stand jelly don't come up from 1,500 to 5,000? All right. And they have their own explanation.
Let me quickly bring in the minister. You know,
three people speak. Almost speaking. At a very convert. No.
I mean, this was. I know. Let me ask a question.
Yeah, no, I wanted to answer. Nobody's feeling it. I wanted to respond.
And that's the question I
No,
want.
that's
the
the
question I want to ask.
I definitely just took it out
So
of your
you've done
mouth.
extremely well according to your submissions. I mean,
Yes,
as
so
a
I'm now going
government.
to
You've
land
done
the
extremely
individual
well.
issues.
Free quality education has taken burdens off parents. You've
we are talking
increased,
about
Leave that with me. Leave that with
you've
me.
increased salaries for the lecturers, the security personnel and all of that. But the lecturer is saying, I mean, looking at what they're earning and what they have to spend, they're still not feeling that gain.
The lecturer is quite aware that before we came to government, they had tried several years to have a wage opener discussions. It didn't happen. It took a government that had education that had to do that. But let's talk about, they say people are not feeling it.
Yes.
You know, I thought this was going to be an honest national conversation. You have those pensioners who have given all their life, all their strength in the service of this country. They retire and they are paid insulting 50,000 leones. Today, the least pensioner earns 250,000 leones and still counting. You see? So I don't know which world Dr. Conte lives in, but those pensioners are grateful. That is how you value national service. From a paltry and insulting 50,000 leones, they now earn, the list is now 250,000 leones. That is not to say people don't earn more than that. Again, you did say there are no roads being done. This government has done more roads, if you care, and I'll be taking you through that. I'll be taking you through that in a bit. I'll just fire a salvo than any other government in the recent history of our country. Number one, major road projects have been done. The Hillside Bypass Road, the Hill Station Regent Road, number 2 Peninsula Road, the Funkia Road, the Grafton Allentown Road, the Moyamba, Tonkolili, Bo, and Kenema, and many more. You know, as the program progresses, I'll take you through that. I don't know which part of this country you live, but I'm sure you have pensioners wherever, in every part of this country. They are feeling it. Let me also come to electrification. You did mention electricity supply, we met it at around 15%. It's now around 31 to 33%. This is a quantum leap, a very quantum leap, right? So, to an extent, that over 65 communities are now on solar grid, including Manshaka, which is one of the latest, right? Cambia, Kailau, many communities are benefiting from the solar grid. So to say we have not done things in that area, including improving electricity supply, you know, it's been very economical with the truth. Major hospital projects have been undertaken at Wilberforce, Kerrytown, Lumley, Pujon, Poloko, right? These things are all ongoing or complete. So to say people are not feeling it is not correct. Come to free quality education. You have parents whose kids have dropped out of school because they could not afford to keep them there because they don't have the resources it takes. With FQE, you have had over close to 800,000 new kids in school, right? That is added to the original number. So those parents are grateful. They have been saved, you know, the hustle and bustle to raise fees. So let us say, for example, bringing this to brass tack, that if you have 5 kids home, each one of them pays 150,000 leones, right? Just for the sake of argument. These are not absolute figures. I'm just saying hypothetical figures.
Go ahead.
150,000 leones for 5 kids. You have to pay that. You cough it through your nose. President Bill says, no. I mean, look, we understand the suffering. We want to invest in the next generation. So every time you are spared 750,000 leones, as if that is not enough. We also have invested in school buses in major capitals, which are heavily subsidized. Kids who used to walk now have the opportunity and the benefits of riding school buses to school. Sadly enough, we did not have a government that cared as much as this government, so I never had the luxury of even seeing a school bus. Yeah, but this is here. Yeah, this is history alive. You move from there, you know, we have school feeding programs extended in many schools across districts, right? Last time I checked, it was over 10 districts across the country. But you know the beauty about that? This is one of the biggest things this government should be remembered for. Probably, but for school feeding program, you would not have had me seated here. I was lured to school by Bulgur, and I stayed on in school forever after. So that is why, amongst other things, even in cabinet, I'm one of the loudest hailers of the school feeding program, right? So, you know, just a couple of days ago, the Minister for Basic and Senior Secondary Education has been distributing buses, school buses, to disadvantaged schools in Freetown, Blind School, in Kono, in Koinadugu, in Bo. So this is a government that cares. Those people feel it. They know it. They are benefiting directly from the system. How about the interventions during COVID? You know, while many countries were locking down whole places, this government decided, because we are mindful that many people live by the day, we did direct cash transfers to disabled members of our community, people living with disabilities, right? We did direct cash transfers to market women, right? And then we have launched a Munafa Fund. I mean, there might be, Dr. Conte did say that, so I have a leakage already, that was inherited. When we came, there was nothing in the kitty. We revamped it. We did ground rules for it, and we have had more transparency and accountability around those funds, right? The market women themselves are grateful. When His Excellency had that novel interaction with that sector 2 days ago, they said about 5,500 of their members have benefited, and they look forward to an increase. And there's good news here. In the budget, from 30 billion, we're increasing it to 100 billion. So this is to ensure that more people benefit directly from it. No. But you don't do good for elections.
All right.
Yeah, you do good because you want your people's life to change. You want to better the lives of your people. You know, so to sit down here, if we want to have an honest conversation and say to Sierra Leoneans that people are not feeling it, it is very disingenuous.
All right.
That is a disservice to our country. You even insult them because they are grateful, they are benefiting from it, they see it, they feel it, they know it, and to sit down here and say it is a little bit.
All right. Dr. Conte, let me hear from you quickly. And
you know, I would normally not want to indulge in these types of issues, but I think we need to put the records straight. And I'm here representing APC, so I have to speak about the record of the APC. He spoke about salaries for lecturers. You increased it by 40%. APC increased, excuse me, APC increased the salaries of lecturers by over 400%.
It was still the baseline was low when we came in.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Yeah, it was very low when we inherited it from the SLPP. And then we increased it by over 400%. And at that time, that salary was able to earn you a decent living. But because you have allowed the leon to depreciate to the extent that it depreciated, we have a situation wherein, even though you gave them a paltry 50% increase, because of the rate of depreciation of the leon, that 50% is reduced to nothing. You spoke about the issue of salaries for health workers, which you increased. APC, during our time, increased the salaries of health workers by over 300% from what we inherited from the SLPP. And that salary was able to earn every nurse, every doctor a decent living. And please note, APC also had Ebola, just like you have Corona. So the issue of Ebola or Corona should not be used as an excuse for not being able to deliver on your things. You spoke about roads.
I thought that was the time we had the fastest growing economy where you
exactly.
had Ebola.
What you have failed what you have failed to acknowledge is that all the roads you have mentioned you inherited. Tell this audience, tell the people listening.
Let me tell them.
Projects, listen to, just wait for me. Tell us the project for which you wrote the proposal. You generated the funds, and then you did the bidding, and then you awarded the contract, and then you implemented it. Name them.
All right.
Because all of this
I'll name them.
Give me time.
I give it time.
Let me do a fact check.
Let me just basically look at where we are and where we're headed.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
just avoid this.
No, he's going back. I have said the things we have done. No, but let us not also forget, just by way of setting this record straight,
the reason why I'm saying it,
His Excellency, the late former President Ahmad Tajan Kaba, in his handover note, clearly noted all of these things. This, the previous government was, it just changed the people of Sierra Leone. Even when there was a written handover that he was never allowed to deliver, he itemized all of these rules for which resources have been sought and that were at the point of commencement.
So
the APC came and denied it. They never gave any credit to former President Kaba.
Can he allow me?
So they cannot claim that. That's an SLPP legacy we are building on.
Even the solar He's talking about he inherited.
You give it to us.
Rural electrification, you inherited.
From who?
The issue you mentioned about school feeding, how I wish I had not mentioned school feeding. To start giving children gari in school, you call that school feeding for only a few schools.
Oh, really?
The only place where there's a semblance of a functioning school feeding program is in Kwenadugu district. And it is because it is run by CRS. So it is not true. Okay? And these cash transfers that you are talking about, you do to cronies. That is different to cronies.
That was why you did exactly.
Different.
We don't.
That is different from having a structured program. You know, if you want to improve the business sector, the private sector, for example, they have a serious handicap, access to capital. So definitely, it is a good idea which we started, which needs to be continued, of improving access to finance, and even the World Bank is interested in that program, access to finance for our business people so that they can grow their businesses. But it has to be structured, it has to be devoid of politics, it is based on merit. The problem we have now is that it is not the case. You see, what we need to think about now is that we have a situation wherein the country is going through dire straits. We cannot challenge that. The cost of living is so high. Everything is basically going out of control. And we think what this government needs to do is to quickly take steps in the next 1 year to stop the suffering for our people.
All right.
Our people need proper electricity. Provide electricity for our people. All you have done since you came is to maintain car power. That's why the river has broken down, so there's nothing new. So take concrete steps to provide power for the people.
Okay.
You know, if you pride in saying you have stopped the criminal libel laws, you have...
So that is why I want to come in just quickly. Let me ask you the question. Let me ask you the question about VAT. The government, when we talk about democracy, the government is now priding itself as being an institution that has really promoted and continues to promote democracy, especially participatory democracy. The minister mentioned earlier that they inherited a polarized nation. So there was this need for every Sierra Leonean to come together, which is why they initiated the Bintimani Free Conference, the dialogue for the setting up of a permanent peace infrastructure, which we now have the National Peace Commission, National Peace and Cohesion Commission. They've also done, they've repealed some very good laws. We now have, we've now taken the criminal aspect of the Part 5, 1965 Public Order Act. We've also, taken out the death penalty, just so there's this breathing space, and there is a cyber crime that, for them, breeds sanity within the cyberspace. And so all of these things have been done. There are very good laws that have been passed in Parliament that promotes good governance.
You know, it's very interesting. It's excellent to say we have removed the death penalty. But what we have not removed is the way in which security forces can go into Pademba Road and kill dozens of inmates, and that matter is not even investigated. So it is right for the government and its functionaries to go and kill, and nothing is done about it. But you go now and pride yourself in saying you have removed death penalty. So, but it is okay to kill in that way. It is okay to go for a mere generator in McKinney and kill 6 people and say we have removed death penalty. So it's okay. They won't hang anybody. They won't use the courts to get somebody to be killed, but you can use the security forces to go and kill people, and it's not even investigated, and nothing comes out of it. It's not right, you know? And you see, we have to acknowledge the fact that this issue about polarization, that you want to unite this country. How can you unite this country when your first step in office is to come and sack everybody that, in your opinion, had any link to the past government or has a surname that is not akin to the other surnames that you think are more amenable to your own side? Is that how you bring people together? That is definitely one way of dividing people. And what is bad is when you, as a government, you institutionalize the process of doing that. So it goes very much against what you profess. So you say one thing and do a different thing. And that is the problem. That is why we say you don't use just propaganda. Let us feel it. We're not feeling it. What we feel is a government that is disenfranchising its citizens, depriving of people of their rights to a job, sacking me because I have a certain surname, because you say I belong to one political party or the other, or because you think I'm not sympathetic to your cause. That will not lead cohesion. You spoke about this conference. For your information, I believed in it because when I was a consultant for UNDP, I actually evaluated the Guyana program. I did the midterm and final evaluation for the Guyana Social Cohesion Program. And it was really a program that was designed to help heal the divide between political parties, between communities, and to see how in a united way we can work towards development. So in fact, when I was in government, when I was chief of staff, I made sure that my program manager, when I went to evaluate that program, I made sure UNDP brought him to this country to start the process of setting up that program. So I believe in it. What is failing in the way you went about it is that you did not make it inclusive. When you are designing a social cohesion program, the process of designing is as good as the likely outcome. If the process is not inclusive and all the parties you intend to bring together don't feel themselves a part of the process and don't own it, it's a process. So there are certain things. What they did in Guyana is that they did not politicize it. It was a program that was led exclusively by the UNDP, and the UNDP led in all the spheres. And at every point in time, I held several meetings with the different political parties. I engaged different community leaders, and all of them felt themselves a part of the process. And even the youths I engaged with from all sides of the political equation, they all felt a part, and they were creating habits for those engagements. So you did not allow that initial interface to take place, to allow everybody to own the process and to drive it. And that is why you made it an SLPP affair, and therefore the APC decided to participate in it.
Do you subscribe to the submission of members of the consortium of progressive political parties that this government has captured all the democratic institutions?
We have a situation of total state capture.
All right.
State capture meaning they have captured the police, they have captured the parliaments, they have captured the judiciary, they have captured all spheres, and that is very dangerous for a very young and nascent democracy.
Lena, let me hear from you there. The issue of governance and the way the executive operates. Now, the opposition has submitted that already the executive has captured all the other institutions. I mean, so no other institution functions, literally. They don't function.
Well, it's part of, it has become our political culture. That when a party wins an election, everybody have to become that party.
So it's from experience.
It is what has been happening. That's why I said at the onset when you asked me the question, nothing basically, I don't see any kind of significant changes between the approaches by these two
political players.
Exactly, because we could rightly, if we switch, okay, in 2000, and if next year APC wins the election, the same things would occur again. Everybody would switch. Okay, police, everybody would switch. So it is one issue that we have to examine within our political culture. How do we politically socialize our people to understand that sometimes some things are above politics? Some things are national issues that should be above politics. These political parties are political institutions. They have they have the opportunity to make changes, but because of that culture where you capture everything, that is what they know and that is what they do. If we want to have significant changes, let's have a leader who would not subscribe to those kind of culture. Then we'll have transformative changes in Sierra Leone. But until we do, we will be here in another 10 years, 5 years, talking about the same issues. Okay, it is part of our political culture, and unfortunately, we have two political parties, two of the parties in our sub-region that have survived.
The oldest,
okay?
yes.
The oldest. Exactly, the oldest. But it seems as if they haven't changed. Some things that so we have to critically look at our political system. What system do we have? How can that system help in the development of Sierra Leone? Because quite frankly, what we have now has not helped us economically, politically, and also socially. What it breeds, it's this division.
It further
Either you are
divides the
with
country.
us or you are against us. If you say something, you are unpatriotic. If you do not this, you are this. Why should we as citizens, some of us do not belong in any side. Why should we as citizens be subjected to that kind of toxicity in politics? And I always say, political parties do not only have to rely on their supporters. In order to gain power, you have to come in the middle. You have to attract those who might not really vote for you, who would not want to vote for you. So that when you get into power, you have to ensure that you are inclusive. Okay, you have your supporters, fine, that's it. But at the same time, there's a section of society who do not belong
to the party,
to any of this, and they vote based on performance, their own objectivity. How can you alienate those people? Because all we see in Sierra Leone is red and green.
Right.
And until we change that politics in Sierra Leone, these issues we are talking about, whether it's good governance or bad governance or whatever, nothing would change. We'll be back here in the next 20 years talking about the same issues.
All right. Dr. Sandy, let me hear you on the issue of good governance and the way the state is functioning.
Yes, it seems like you're a bit tired today. You're not fired too much like you used to be. But let me say again, you see, the point I'm trying to say here is that we seem to be focusing on projects and activities, which as ministers or people who are working in government, when you come, manifestos about policies, policy impact. And that's why I keep coming back. If I'm assessing someone who won the elections against me, because I was also presidential candidate, so he was my opponent, then I have to assess his policy framework and the target he set over time. And that's why I'm saying is when you come to cluster number 3, which is about the public policy priority that is about governance and accountability. And therefore, you have 10 pillars. So I will ask, well, if I'm in a debate now, not with my honorable minister, because he's a technocrat and appointee, but His Excellency Brigadier Julius Marabio, then the debate will come and say, look, you gave us 10 pillars in your public policy priorities in terms of prioritization. So how much did you achieve that? Number 1, for example, I can show you. It says, cluster 4, public policy priorities are 1, political development, 4, national cohesion. That's what we are talking about.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I assess that. How much have we achieved in stimulating a discourse around building our common national interest and national cohesion? What are the impact that we see? It's emphasized on inclusive the principles for implementation of the National Development Plan are anchored around inclusive political and national ownership. Now, for example, when we are developing the midterm, when government was developing the National Midterm Development Plan, the principle in that plan say all political parties, but we are excluded. Midterm census, we are excluded in the debate. All public policy development process, most political parties registered by law under Section 35(1) of the 1990 Constitution, which says political parties have mandates of 3. 1, we are supposed to shape the political will of the people of this country. Number 2, we should support and complement programs of national, social, and national character. Number 3, we are responsible for managing administration of candidate nomination process for presidential, parliamentary, and local government election. But everybody look at political parties as only for that number 3. When I'm here...
Is that not how perhaps you've portrayed yourselves, I mean, as political parties?
But
that's
you've been here, you have been celebrating with us. For example, when my minister spoke about cluster 3 or 4, I mean cluster 1, under human capacity building. Number 8 is about social protection. Every year, 3 years now, the National Unity and Reconciliation Party will be celebrating with amputees, war victims. Who
it's not necessarily about...
No, I'm saying that's social protection.
Yeah.
We went to Lome, we said we should establish a national commission for victims' compensation and reparation. Why is that commission? We should establish, for this Anchor and others agree, that we should establish a national victims' compensation and reparation trust fund. Why is the trust fund for them? There are no shelter, no water for them. We exclude them. That's social protection. It's not about, it is these people who have died for us. These people whose hands were cut for democracy. They, on March 23rd, they wanted to stage a national protest. The Inspector General of Police stopped them. The Minister of Social Welfare stopped them, wait for His Excellency to come, because we have not fulfilled what we promised in terms of reconciliation with these people. That's what I'm talking about. It's about politics of exclusion. The marginalized people. You say you have to pay fees for youth and students at Fobe College. I mean, in terms of their grants in aid and everything coming. We're excluding them from governance. That's the point I'm trying. This is not just about political parties. If you leave us in public policy formulation, but war victims, amputees, students, sexually abused women, the association during the war. I have them. They have pistulas. So I'm saying is, we, in terms of social protection and the governance of this country, we are so much excluding others. We think it's about roads, it's about school feeding, but the basic fact is the marginalized people. This country is a vulnerable country where we have suffered from war 11 years, the relics of the war, we have not been able to consolidate that, and in terms of national reconciliation, we have not.
Let me just...
The ex-servicemen, we have 25 to 30,000.
Let me quickly ask you this question before I move over to the minister. So you're saying even at the development stage of public policies, you are always left out?
That's what I'm telling you. Even, let me tell you now, from the steering committee, the evolving National Steering Committee for Electoral Management process, he can tell you. They have set up the national terms of reference for the National Steering Committee for Election, when the principal agents for election are political parties, only 17. 1996, we have over 25 political parties. Yes, the Tijan Kaba era, who contested. Even our Speaker of Parliament, current Speaker, Dr. Abbas Bundu, had his own party with Pateba. They had their PPP party. Zainab Bangura had his party, MOP. Desmond Luke, National Unity Movement.
They were part of the committee.
They were 25 of that. What I'm talking about, how in the African Union says, African Charter on Democracy, Election and Good Governance, Article 3 says member states should be promoting political pluralism. But we don't care. And Section 35(1) of the 1991 Constitution says political parties have a role. But this state, why the Francophones, the other thing, they provide administrative subventions for political parties. But here, we think political parties are private sector. In fact, those of us, whether you have beautiful idea, you have this, they think these two parties, they think, no. The civic space and the political space should be closed. We cannot give subvention. PPRC, you make your budget annually, PPRC, approved by Parliament. Parliament doesn't ask. You they go back people then at their absence. Why is PPRC set up? It's not to empower to ensure that the administrative and institutional capability of political parties to genuinely engage in public policy debate and make sure we go away with this aspect of winner takes it all. It's not happening.
All right.
So when it comes to governance, let me just conclude.
Okay.
When it comes to social cohesion, we are increasingly saying the EU report, we discussed this.
Yes.
We have just done a survey analysis in terms of overcoming the challenges of a divided society. It's coming out.
Okay.
It is interesting to see. We used to sit together, all of us, common friends. We only sit now here. No, my brother, Honorable Minister, I'm saying is we have Stop Press, we have China House, we have our common point.
All right.
Yeah, we used to come together. You understand what I'm saying?
But my friends still remain my friends.
All right.
Honorable Minister, sir, this is not what I'm saying. I'm saying overall our nation, even from the APC days to now, that's what she's saying.
Okay, so my turn now, my turn.
So we need to come together under a
this is a call. I mean,
my turn.
You can meet.
Yeah, my teacher and I will talk. There's a lot of residual grievances here, not bordering on analyzing the huge achievements of President Bio's 4 years in office in extremely difficult circumstances. So
what are those gains?
So
we think the governance structure, because
yes,
what they are now saying, you've captured all of these institutions. Now, all of these institutions just work, I mean, according to the instructions of the executive.
So let me say.
Yes.
Well, if it were the executive that said the ACC should work very hard and ensure that they pass all successive international benchmarks, that the ACC and others even qualified us to get the MCC, well, that is so good. That is not supposed to be a captured institution, right? They have, over the years, we have strengthened the ACC, the hands of the ACC to pursue corruption wherever it leads, and they have done phenomenally well to the consternation of all and to the commendation of the whole world, right? Amongst other things, with freedom of press and information, ruling justly and all of those things, Sierra Leone has, for the first time, qualified for the MCC with, huge benefits for the country, which, every Sierra Leonean will enjoy, because we are based on a policy of inclusive politics, inclusive development, inclusive growth, and inclusive everybody. Because when a free quality education is introduced, for example, it's for everybody, right? When the country gets it right, we all benefit. We have had issues of lawlessness that has crept into our body politic over the years, right? When we campaigned, we promised we will stem the tide of lawlessness, right? And you could see that, right? So when a group of people take upon themselves to confront law enforcement officers, right, and pose a threat to their lives, the law officers themselves, within the limits of their rules of engagement, can defend themselves, right? So those people who lost their lives during those engagements, well, it's unfortunate. May their souls rest in peace. But, let me use this opportunity to advise young men and women. When Dr. Richard Conte, Dr. JPJ Sandi, and others, I know you did not get your PhD under a mango tree somewhere. when these people incite you, to be in conflict with the law, to face armed men.
Please withdraw that statement. That is too serious.
No.
Withdraw it.
The likes. Well, it might not be you. The likes.
Please withdraw it.
When people, well-placed Sierra Leoneans.
Please withdraw it.
No. I did not mean you. When the likes
this discussion.
No, this is hypothetical. Dr. Conte, this is hypothetical.
Use fictitious names.
Okay.
Don't use our names.
When whoever, well-placed people who do not have to starve, who do not have to run by the day to earn a living, when they incite you to face armed men, while their own families, their own children, siblings and all are in the safety of their homes, are living abroad, you must say no. Because there are due processes to seek. If you are aggrieved, there are due processes.
So the people in Pademba, in prison, in detention,
so
they are incited.
No, Doc. You had your moment. Let me also have my say, right? We are talking here, very frivolous allegations have been made about state capture. This is the very first time you have resident judges in all districts around the country. This is a huge plus for the current justice delivery system. Before now, many districts did not have resident judges. You had circuit judges going around. Cases piled up. Justice was denied to those people. Government has brought on in excess of 60 state councils, so matters are not unnecessarily delayed again. Far-Flung, Falaba, Karine, Bond, all of them have resident judges. This is commendable because this government is serious about dispensation of justice because we say justice delayed is justice denied. Talking about executive powers, President Bill has a huge penchant for the rule of law, for respecting fundamental rights and freedoms of every Sierra Leonean. That is why he does not have powers from above in his dictionary. He does not have that. He does not give instructions to them, but he always believes in due process. We saw a lot of that in the previous administration. But we promised a new direction. That is why he does not do that.
So the allegation of state capture is not true?
No, it's very frivolous. It's unfounded. They know it themselves. Football, people are not feeling it. We had, before we came in, about 9 years, I mean, even the Premier League did not play. Nobody put anything into it. It was rancor, it was wrangling here and there, you know, to an extent that something that provided alternative jobs for people, that was a career for other people, literally died. After a 25-year hiatus, because of President Bill's commitment to youth development, to football and soccer and sport development generally, his infusion of resources into it, we qualified after a 25-year hiatus. And we went to Cameroon. The guys did very well. That is just the beginning. We will do more as we go on. So, to support our national cohesion drive, we have strengthened the Ministry of Youth to an extent that they are now doing the National Youth Service Scheme, you know, where somebody born in Bombali will go to Bond for the National Youth Service Scheme. You never know what happens when they are there. So they now begin to see the values, the intrinsic values in each other, not on the basis of their tribe or the regions or the political persuasions they come from. So this is how we intend to unite this country. And it's very unfortunate.
The issue of unity.
No, there has been. No, just before we go there, you know, there has been very, very, very unguarded statements here made by the former president. He was addressing a group of people in Makeni. You know, being former statesman, you earn a state pension, you have state security persons, you have to have vested interest in the peace, stability, and cohesion of this country, not to make inciting statements about a sitting government. I think that is really out of order, and I think it should be treated the way it deserves to be treated. Because when you are a retired person, you are living off pension with all the pomp and pageantry that goes with it, you should have a vested interest in the peace, stability, and cohesion of our country.
All right.
Right? I mean, I see the former president out of order. He does not.
So, Dr. Sandy mentioned.
And I see you'll be reading off his script on a lot of the instances. Yes,
Dr. Sandy mentioned that when crafting all of these national policies, there is no point in time you would include them. And when you talk about participatory democracy, you need all of them to come on board. And these are parties that are formed.
Let me just clarify.
Go ahead.
What I'm saying is,
I'll take that on.
for example,
yes,
just over the weekend, yeah, the PPRC have a partnership with NDI, which they signed, U.S. National Democratic Institute. They signed a memorandum of understanding to engage inter-party dialogue and support. Then we had a news that a retreat in Bo is taking place about political parties organized by APA and PPRC. And we saw all the PPRCs composed of the commissioners are from Labour Congress, Bar Association, NEC, and PPRC chairman. They're all there, and 3/4 of the political parties were not invited. They were excluded from a retreat, which by now we are all preparing to go about managing candidate nomination process. That's the major function. Let me tell you, these political parties, we run offices. You are supposed to have 5-year lease agreement for each office's upcountry, decentralized, yeah? Then you're supposed to have national executive manning these offices. But yet we are the only institutions, including APC, SLPP, and all of us, 17 political parties who has a mandate under Section 35(1) to be administratively running the party and promoting. You know, that's one. Number two, the electoral process.
So
the
that
electoral process.
Yes.
We have established a national electoral system, a task force for implementation, what we call the EOMs, electoral management things. Now that task force and the steering committee, we have been excluded. When I came back, I've been trying to find out where is the National Steering Committee for managing the trust fund, which the oversight, political parties will have representatives there. Then you can prioritize our needs because you have the electoral management bodies.
And so is the committee.
For example, the electoral security management system, ONS taking the lead, but no political party sits there. They sit with the police and do it. So when you talk about cluster 2, policy analysis, you talk about building trust and accountability in state institutions. That is what we are saying.
It's when you're
If
included,
we are not included, we are suspicious that you are not creating the integrity of the electoral process to be able to.
All right, so let's allow the minister to quickly.
Yeah, so by way of just quick clarification.
The central office is the same. The only exception we had, Honorable Minister, would have been his institution and then the ENCRA, Masako and others. When they were doing the thing, they involved all political parties. We are not enemies. We are supposed to shape the political will of our people.
All right.
But in COVID-19, we are excluded.
Quickly respond to
the policy discussion.
Well, first, I like to, I like to say thanks to Lena. I understand some time ago, during the past administration, you rejected a list of people they wanted for honors class. That is the kind of timber and caliber we want in our university people. The SF people will never ever send a list to anybody to promote people to undeserving positions. So let's go on to the next one. JPJ says there are 17 political parties. My arithmetic of mathematics is not good at all. But the list I saw, 14 political parties signed up to it. I don't know if that is
11.
No, it's 14. I saw 14.
But
I don't know which list you saw.
Most of them, their
I
chairmen
saw
were not
14.
there.
Yeah, so if your party was not there, that is the agony of running one-man parties. Yeah, when you are not there, they probably don't have a secretariat to take a letter to, so you are difficult to reach, right? Or besides, some of your other colleagues have gone to join other groups that probably has a position. They are not joining. They are not going to the forum. You mentioned you were not consulted. There were nationwide consultations led by an independent consultant following the Green Paper was developed, following those consultations, leading to the White Paper and subsequently Bintumane 3. So there were enough consultations. I even remember an envoy was sent, an envoy no less a person than the Minister of Political and Public Affairs to engage your party's chairman and leader about, following all of the engagements which your members attended at various levels. So it's not true that you are not involved, you are not consulted, right? Everybody was consulted.
Let me just quickly take a few messages from our followers online. Dr. Freddie Lawson from UK saying, I wonder why government functionaries always feel they are doing the citizens a favor by facilitating minor increases in salaries. It becomes their duty when they take up the mantle to govern. What they should be talking about is living wage. How many of them will be able to live on 250,000 euros? During the COVID-19 period, external help was central to its management and control. The shortcomings in governance in Africa is enormous, especially black African countries. What you hear is mentioned about the fringes of development. Sierra Leoneans, like other Africans, must think whether the incessant cry for democracy is relevant with our development aspirations. Africans must now be able to discuss based on our culture, tradition, etc., and how we can be able to govern ourselves. When democracy was started by the Greeks, they didn't have Africa on their minds. What we are doing is like trying to insert and use a Toyota engine in the body of a Mazda truck. Just imagine what will happen. We can't survive without major external help. At this rate, I can project 300 years to catch up with the least developed country in the Western Hemisphere. The problems are too many. All right, we have so many messages. Yoki Musa is saying, during 4 years in governance, there was no better development, only the increment of our commodity, no better price control. Ibrahim Jakema is saying, 4 years of SLPP President Bio in governance is far better than all 11 years put together by EBK APC regime. 4 years ago, we were paying school fees for our children. Today, under President Bio, we're no longer paying fees for our children. Thank you, President Bio. Just John Kano is saying, okay, John Kano, that's too disrespectful. I'm not going to go through it. BK Kalon is saying, how can a country depend on IMF, World Bank, and the ADB for the running of its affairs. It's like running your home by lending money from people. 4 years ago, Samuel, your profession was criminalized. Today we have the repeal law. Thank you, President Bio. Interesting. Right? Amar Alpha is saying, Madam, honestly, one cannot see massive improvement within 4 years. When the country was destroyed for the past 11 years of the APC administration, and mind you, Rome was not built in a day. What the new direction government of President Bio has done for 4 years, more than the 11 years of the APC regime. Okay, I'm going to take at most 5 more messages. We have so many. 4 years ago, the international community folded up from Sierra Leone due to the rampant corruption and mismanagement of our state's resources by the APC. Today, we have regained our international lost glory under President Bio. Thank you, sir. Ibrahim Jassi saying, why is it that all the time SLPP were complaining about the previous regime? To say that after 4 years of SLPP in governance, they still do not have anything to show as development. Come 2023, Sierra Leone would surely decide if APC is smart enough to choose Dr. Richard Conte as flag bearer come 2023. Well, Dr. Conte would have to pay to make that announcement. Yeah. All right. Just 3 more messages. 4 years ago, Dr. Richard Conte and co bastardized our constitution broad daylight by sacking our elected VP. Today, we have a president that has respect for the constitution of Sierra Leone and a hard-working vice president. 2 more messages to go. Okay, Muhammad Lama, that's again too disrespectful. Please, let's just be a little, be civil at least and show respect to our leaders here. What a load of poppycock. You have done well. Then why is the economic situation so dire for millions of Sierra Leoneans, Mr. Minister? Are you so out of touch with the reality on the ground that you think that those who disagree with your statements are faceless social media people when inflation is not stabilizing for your electorate? Do you think we so hate your government that we don't want you to provide the necessary economic development for all Sierra Leoneans? Sierra Leoneans are suffering with prices of goods not decreasing but changing like a chameleon. Unless you are connected, you have no chance. Ronald Georgetown says, and the final message I'll take, I'm afraid we have close to 1,000, but unfortunately we can't. Dr. Conte led governments left into darkness and is enjoying 24 hours of electricity, and his fellow APC children are benefiting from the free quality education with salary increments for teachers. Paupers alone must develop under the leadership of President Bio. I'm afraid we have to hold the messages there. Guys, you would have to forgive me, and you understand time is not our best friend. So just quickly, Dr. Conte, I'll start off with you. The economy and governance, of course, according to your submissions, the SLPP has failed in 4 years. They've not done anything tangible and anything good for Sierra Leoneans to be proud. What would you consider now to be the reformatory way forward in all of these things?
Before I answer that question, I want to state that I commend the Darling Boys Leon Stars for taking us to the Nations Cup, but I would demand from this government a report on the $7.5 million that was allocated for that event, because we only spent 3 days or thereabout, about a week, and I'm sure the budget they had prepared was in anticipation of us going right through to the final. So I would be curious to know how the $7.5 million that was allocated was spent. Secondly, I want to commend the leadership of the APC for the way in which they have been able to contain their members through all the intimidations, all the harassments, all the maltreatment that we have received under this current regime. I think they must be commended. They've succeeded in keeping the peace, and I think we owe that to the leadership of the APC party. When I listened to my brother, what he was actually trying to state repeatedly is that this government has a plan with clear sets of goals and deliverables, but they've not been able to deliver on those plans. So basically, what he was saying in summary is that they promised, they did not deliver. And if you promise and you don't deliver, it means you have failed. I like the approach of Madam. I can understand the frustrations because we really want change. People in this country want change, and I promise you the next APC leadership, the next APC administration will bring about the desired changes that you are talking about, building on the record of the APC going forward. Now, in terms of how do you think we can do this day? I think this government must try to be a bit more inclusive in terms of how they go about their activities. Jonathan was just talking about things having to do with political parties. You know, some of the problems they face are just because, I don't know why they are afraid of involving people. All the problems we had with the midterm census was all because they did not involve people in the process. There are appropriate committees that are set up, like the advisory committee where I was supposed to be serving. The committee was not meeting. And so we are not able to advise appropriately. I was only invited for the inaugural meeting and then once, the last meeting, 2 days. 2 days. And you know, but that is not, this is the committee that is expected to guide the process and to make sure, this is where all the political parties meet. This is what we mean by letting people own the process. So they all feel a part of the process and they will not go against it. NCRA was quick to retrace its steps and to reach out to political parties and create a forum for dialogue. And because of that, you saw how political parties came out to advocate for everybody to be a part of the NCRA process. So the shortcomings with that process notwithstanding, at least they involved political parties. And that is what I think should happen. Even in terms of managing the economy and the different arms of government. You see, one mistake that they made was to come and erase history, erase memory, and they want to run as if it was a tabula rasa. Government is continuous. So I think they would have benefited from engaging with people from the past regime who had some ideas and experiences. Yes, not everything went perfectly correct. There are so many things we could have done differently, but I think that is why government has to be continuous. So some engagement would help to address this issue, because at the end of the day, when you go to the market to buy, they don't say one price for APC, one price for SLPP. It's one price for all. So anything that could help all of us to work together for a better Sierra Leone, I think will be welcome.
Lina, let me hear you, your closing comments and what should be done.
All I have to say is that instead of us looking back in 4 years, I think we need to look forward now. We need to know from the parties what are their plans, and it's not only about putting it in a nice glossy folder and things like that. It's things that should be concrete, that should be that are practical, that can be done. Because we have so many problems. I understand it's only been 4 years, but there's so many issues that we have to think about as a nation to critically assess. Another thing is that a lot of people now are fearful. There is this kind of perception that people are fearful to say, to speak freely, you know, because you go on the radio, if you're on the radio, I know it's for, some people have been detained and so forth. So when you have that kind of environment where people are afraid to say anything, then it does not bode well for the democracy. So in short, I just hope that the parties would understand the problems that people are facing, not to be too aloof from the people, because sometimes when they are up there, they don't understand what is happening down, that they actually speak to the people in the language that they would understand. If things are not going well, tell us. This is not so this thing here, they will not be able to do this. But sometimes when you give out promises, it leads to false promises. And I'm not talking only about this government, but also the other 25 or so
17 political parties.
exactly. Let them be truthful with the people, so that we need inspiration in Sierra Leone, especially young people. We need role models in Sierra Leone, so that we could actually get somewhere. This is 2022. The world is moving. People are becoming innovative. We have the talent here. We just have to harness that talent, and also, in order to harness that talent, we have to ensure that the country is stable. And that onus is on the parties to ensure that we have confidence in them.
Okay.
You know, and if we do not, there is no development.
All right, Dr. Sandy.
Yes, I think my closing remark first to say, just to my honorable minister, that there are no one-man political parties in Sierra Leone, because the criteria are very clear. That for you to function, your party has to decentralize. For example, the NERP, we are one of the only parties you can go and check. We have 4 political parties are all over in McKinney, in Bo, and Kenema, and everywhere. That's one. But what I want to say is the point we are all making. The guiding principle, the fundamental guiding principle in the Midterm National Development Plan are about 4 or 5. It says, 1, national inclusive. This plan will be implemented based on the following principles. National inclusivity and ownership of the process. Number 2, involving participation of all political parties. And then you go to 3 and 4. The point is how Jonathan Sandy, for example, can hate an SLPP government in power. The word SLPP. My identity politics in Sierra Leone is very clear. I told you the other day, Samuel, if they say Jonathan, maybe you say Susanna Wankobobo. But then qualify and say Sandy. You are better. You can see Madingo, Soiree, you can see Swan. But me, as I say Jonathan Sandy, the perception, identity, sociological people about which party you belong to, it's SLPP. There's no way I can publicly deny SLPP. Because the DNA, people, the Salon people, their perception is any Sandy, na SLPP. So can I take that off my back? So no. Second point is any Abdul Kagbo, Otula, Tarawali, and that. The perception in our society is what? They belong to APC. That's why we are stuck with as a nation. There's that dilemma, as you call his surname. Maybe the Banguras, you are Susu, you are Limba, you are this, but here they will suspect you and try to diagnose. I remember my late cousin, brother, and friend, one of our own brothers again, Shaka Mansare, but we call him Manzao. May he so rest in blessed peace. Amen. You know how I survived in between these two governments, their things? When the APC call, they say, Shaka Mansare is from my Shaka, the Shakas are from that. Not knowing that he's from Puja as well, he's from Mansare. So he survived because the surname Mansare cannot be placed without APC or SLPP. But those of us, Nyale, Mokoa, we suffer from that. So I'm trying to say identity politics, that's the point she was saying, that we are stuck as a nation when you come to national cohesion. How do we overcome the strategic dilemma that your surname does not affect you the way you go? How do we induce a merit-based and competitive-based process of selection and recruiting of people in our public and civil service? So I just wanted to end with that. And then lastly, the point is, we should not forget, Mr. Honorable Minister, that our Ministry of, I wish the Ministry of Economic Development and Planning also should be urging us to clearly evaluate the progress we are making based on the indicators we have had. We are not bad. Engage us. Inclusive governance and dialogue. We push this country before without hating whether it's APC or... In fact, I keep saying to people, it is next 2023 must not be about APC, SLPP, or NURP or NGC. It must be a critical mass of Sierra Leoneans that will come together and push this country, whether as students or youth, and that rather than we identify ourselves.
We'll move on with that campaign. Let's quickly hear from them.
Okay, so let me reaffirm our government's commitment to inclusive politics, inclusive development, and inclusive growth. I mean, this has been the hallmark of our public policies. All public policy pronouncements we have done have been about benefiting the generality of our people, right? So, I mean, I like the way Dr. Conte put it. He attended 2 meetings of the advisory committee. Last time I checked, advisory committee members are only consulted when they need advice, not on routine daily basis. But anyway, that's another matter. So we come to the issue of these things. This government's good governance record has not been seen before. As I speak, there are no political prisoners in detention. There are no journalists in detention for practicing their trade. As a matter of fact, it was President Bio who removed the Damascus sword from over their heads to an extent that one of the Texans said, you can now practice your trade, you know, a free man, not criminalized. So that in itself very good. So talking about sackings, let me put this on record for the benefit of the viewers and listeners. No civil servant has ever been relieved of their duties. We had political appointees. Anytime a new government comes to office, you have a vision, you have an objective, you have an agenda. You want people who are aligned with that agenda to help you deliver on that. So no civil servants have ever been touched. If you have a record, show me one. No civil servant has ever been touched. The people who were let to go home were people who were political appointees. I mean, I got sacked as a public servant. I was in executive management at the Airports Authority, and I got sacked not because of incompetence, not because I received a degree under a mango tree, not because of any mischievous thing, but somebody felt I was not aligned with their agenda. On very flimsy grounds. I have never seen anywhere. My practice has been HR and OD with PR as an addendum. Nobody closes down a human resources department. That is the last department that closes down. But for me, the HR department was closed simply because they wanted me gotten rid of and people were brought in. It's a shame. Okay. You don't want to have a rendition of that. As we continue the move towards entrenching good governance, democracy, and national cohesion, I also want to encourage my colleagues, leaders of political parties, to hold conventions. Some of them who have shouted on rooftops got elected as flag bearers of their parties in 2017. From that time, they have not called one person to meet with. But they are still the loudest people. They make good governance prescriptions to government.
Thank you.
So political parties are governments in waiting. We encourage them to open up to democratize.
Mr. Minister, thank you very much, Leonard. Thank you very much, Dr. Conte and Dr. Sandy. It's been a pleasure having all 4 of you here, gentlemen and ladies. Thank you very much. And this is where we end tonight's program. Many thanks to our guests for giving us their time, and to all of you who contributed to the show. Many thanks indeed. And in case you missed this or missed part of it, a repeat of it comes up on Thursday at 10 p.m. here on AYV, so you can follow the conversation. But a fresh edition comes up next Sunday with a different topic. And the show has been AYV on Sunday. My name is Samuel Wise-Bangura saying good night. TransferPay promised Sierra Leoneans in America that remitting money back home would be affordable with ease. It was fulfilled with the lowest transfer fees, best exchange rates, and 24/7 responsive customer service. More users upgraded to level 3, and the platform welcomes more subscribers every day. The November 2021 promo of sending money home with no charge and the best exchange rates increased users and the volume of transactions per day. Now, TransferPay is excited to announce the extension of the zero transfer fees and best exchange rates promotion. But to keep this alive, TransferPay needs at least 1,500 additional subscribers on the platform. So join the Refer Innovative Challenge or Refer a Friend Challenge now. Invite 3 or more family members and friends in America to register and use TransferPay online money transfer. You know me, I'm Samuel Wise-Bangura, and I'm participating in this campaign to help 100% Sierra Leonean business grow. My friends and fans, when we're meeting